so much for having us today.
Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Well, tell us a little bit about your role in Kingfish.
Well, I'm the owner, and the only one. It's a sole propriety LLC, so I'm it. And I created the company about, I don't know, I think about 4 or 5 years ago, and then we've been open for almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years in May, and then a year prior to that was the build out. So, been in this space for almost 3 years. Not always open to the public, of course, but so yeah, it's been a work in progress. Prior to that, I learned to make cider. Well, I fell in love with cider, and then I learned to make it and wanted to bring it here because I found it so much more refreshing and just seemed more the perfect beverage for the South, even though it's not a Southern beverage.
Right, because we don't have the fruit that you would normally
No
use.
apples or pears. So I'm trying to grow 2 pear trees in my backyard. That's going okay, sort of. When they have one little fruit and then, a tropical storm comes and knocks it off. So I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, since typically, people in the north, they make cider like people make beer down here. I think cider is even more common maybe than brewing up there. For some people, they just make it in their garage and keep it around. But here, it's like, well, no, we don't have access to those same fruits unless you just go to the grocery store and buy. I mean, apples cost quite a bit, so that way. So you would have to buy a lot. So I did get my apples. I spent a couple of years trying different recipes and different apples from different companies, and I finally found one that went really well, and I like their pear product too. So, and they're from Michigan. But I try to make it as Louisiana as possible with whatever fruits we do have available. Like I have the Pochatilla strawberries in glaze, and I have the Loranger, I never know how they want it pronounced, blueberries in Caledonia. So wherever I can, I try to make it more Louisiana as much as possible. But yeah.
So now, how do you brew cider?
It is a fermentation process that is considered a wine as far as the government is concerned, and it really is the exact same process. Instead of grapes, you use apples or pears. And so really just add water, a good yeast, and let it go and hope it works. If we were straight from the orchard, there's a lot more steps you have to worry about with the pH balancing and nitrogen amounts, but it's pretty much they've taken all that out before it gets to me. So since the company that I have to use, since we don't have them here. But yeah, it's a lot more when you have an actual orchard and you pick them and you grind them and do all that good stuff, juice them, and there's a lot more steps. But at this point, there's not as many. So
and you get the pulp as well, or just the juice, or
the concentrate?
The concentrate.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've mentioned that we go to trivia, and this is where we play trivia.
Yes.
So we drink a lot of your cider.
Well, that's good.
It's really good. When you first started coming up with the concept of bringing a cidery to New Orleans, did you make like ciders at your home, or
Yes.
did you? Okay.
Yeah, when I first had the idea, we were in Austin, and we used to go to the Hill Country in Austin. There's like a little wine area, and we used to go there every year before COVID. I haven't been back since, unfortunately. So I do miss it, but just don't have time. So we used to go there, and then one year we went, and there were all these ciders there, these craft ciders. Like, what is going on? So I did not know that was like a thing. I was used to drinking Strongbow, which I like pretty well, and some other ones, but I wasn't like, oh, I got to seek even these out. So I was like, oh, well, let's just try them, see how it is. And they were great. And then we went to some of the cideries, and those were really unique, a little bit different. I always said that they're kind of somewhere different, in between a brewery and a winery, just got a different feel. Right. Especially up there in Austin, they were able to go more out into the country, which we don't really have here unless we went across the lake or somewhere. But yeah, it was just such a great experience. I was like, wow, it'd be wonderful if we had that here, because this is really not what everybody knows as cider. So I came up with the concept, and then I need to know if I can make it and then if I like to make it, and then if people like to drink it.
Yeah.
So I went and learned how to make it at Washington State. They have a program devoted to cider, and they have orchards, and they have a dedicated faculty person. I think they're the only one in the United States that does that.
That's cool.
And so went up there for a week. Learned. They threw a lot of information at you. Some of it was helpful. Some of it was just a bit too much. And then it was like, well, I just really need to just start making it. So I made it for a couple of years, and I did NOLA on tap in the home brewing section.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for 2 years, and tried out Blaze and Caledonia and Huey and Earl. So those were my 4 that I had like landed on over the years. So those are the core 4 that, though Blaze is seasonal, the other 3 have always been around. So, yeah.
So why the name Kingfish?
Well, as I was talking about how like cider is just not inherently the South, or thought of as a Southern beverage. I wanted to make it as Louisiana, like identifiable as a Louisiana thing, and I wanted to be the Louisiana cider, not just New Orleans or pick one little section of town or anything.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea would be to be more like have a location in Baton Rouge or what have you, to have several tap rooms, but even more so, have the product throughout the state. Kind of see my goal is to be basically like the Abita for cider.
Cool.
So to me, nothing said Louisiana more than the Long family, and we're right here situated near the Huey P. Long Bridge, and there's just so much history, and that time frame goes really well too. Because Long was around with the Prohibition, and there's some interesting things he did with alcohol, and like the whole, I think it was the Sazerac that he taught them how to make, and like brought somebody up. But yeah, so there's a whole like Prohibition during that time, and Prohibition was the death of cider in America really as a whole. That's when, beer was already gaining ground because it was easier, but then when Prohibition happened, the cider the apple orchards that you would traditionally use, the cider apples that they love to use in Europe, they're bitter and they're not good for cooking or just eating. So they're really only used to make cider. So why would you bother keeping up an orchard if you can't do anything with it?
Right.
So they pretty much chopped them all down and burned them all. So there's very few traditional apples out there. There is a website, I haven't looked at it in a few years, but it tracks like where some of those are. And, there's like one over here in the Northeast and, or the Northwest and over here and, but there's not much. There's just a few orchards here of each kind of what has remained because they're trying to bring them back, but that takes a long time.
Yeah.
So,
apple trees don't grow fast.
No. So, now that there's a renewed interest, pre-COVID and White Claw, the hard seltzer, cider was craft cider was outpacing everything. And then, COVID happened and White Claw, the whole seltzer thing happened. I do think that's kind of died back because I think everybody just jumped into the pool on that one.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, so hopefully it will start gaining ground again. Because I think it's a great thing. A lot of it's education, which they even told me in the school, that you really have to educate people in cider. And we get that every day. Especially guys come in, they're like, oh, I'm a beer drinker. No cider. It's like, just try it. Just, it can't hurt you to try it. You're in here already. Why not? I'll give you a little sip for free. Not a problem. Just since your wife's buying some, because I don't know, for some reason it's thought of as a more of a womanly beverage or something. I don't know, because it's maybe wine is thought that same way too. I don't really think so. But demographically, supposedly, throughout the nation, it's split down the middle.
Oh.
So it's just a matter of getting people to try them. Craft cider, if they've had the national brands, it doesn't have to taste like that.
Right.
And what I mean by that is like they really put in a lot of sugar.
Right. I was going to say my husband drinks beer mostly, and so we've been to a lot of places that had cider in bars, and I can only drink so much beer, so I'll get a cider. I think his perception may have been that it was really sweet. And so these ciders and craft ciders, in my experience, have not been overly sweet.
Right.
And so that may be what's stopping folks from,
Yes.
Yeah.
or men particularly, they don't like sweet drinks.
Right.
But I definitely have, especially here, they have so many different types. Like you have one that's a hopped cider, which kind of, to me, sort of tastes like a hoppy beer.
Yes.
Kind of on that level. But it's cool that there's such a wide spectrum of either, be it a perry or like a regular cider. It's cool that there's so many options that people can actually have. It's not just one cider that tastes overly sweet. It's, you kind of have a nice range.
Well, and I think maybe people without the alcohol thought think of the cider that you give your kids at
Sure.
Thanksgiving. The sweet apple juice. I think that's where you go, just as a if you don't know.
Right.
I mean, I think that's where you go. So, yeah, these ciders are amazing.
Thank you.
We like them a lot. So, since we are kind of on a Mardi Gras carnival theme this month, I hear y'all did a king cake and cider tasting.
Yes, we did.
How challenging is it to pair a cider with king cake?
Well, we didn't quite use the same approach as we do with the cheese.
Okay.
So when we do the cheese and cider pairings, I go with St. James, their cheese instructors. They come in, it's like a whole class, and they give the back history of all the cheese and everything like that. So really the king cake and cider pairing is more of just a fun event. It's more your chance to get a whole bunch of king cake from different people. And I let the consumer decide what goes best.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, king cake is kind of, especially a little subjective. Like, it's kind of fun to get a sampling of many different ones and try to decide, like, I like this one the best. Who makes the best plain or traditional cheese, king cake, and which one goes best? So I've kind of like let that one up to the consumer.
So did you do like a flight, or so you could sort of play around and see what you like better? But I heard that they did one earlier, but then there was one last week, and it was very exciting.
Yeah, because the electricity was out.
Oh, no.
Yes, I think somebody hit a pole and knocked it out for these two streets. So we were supposed to start at 6:30. Well, I mean, we did start at 6:30, and Entergy got it rolling a little. Well, they said their estimated time was 7, and then it didn't happen until 7:30. But so it was an intimate, romantic, unplanned setting. So yes, by candlelight, and
That's awesome.
I had a little heater that's kind of like, it looks like a little bonfire. So.
Oh, that
Yeah.
works.
I mean, most people stuck it out. We had a few people that got theirs to go and have taken a voucher for the flight, so they didn't get to experience it that way. But most people, stuck around. So.
Our electricity goes off occasionally, so we just roll with it.
Well, yeah, you got to. It's like a bird flies in, I don't know, a squirrel. There've been cats, I mean, I don't know what the problem is.
You just gotta roll with it. So, what was your favorite king cake and cider pairing that you tasted or tried?
Well, I like the Caledonia with really any king cake, but I have discovered high dough with cream cheese, and I had that for the first time this past Thursday. We didn't have it at the first one, so I did just a couple that were different each time, but the high dough with cream cheese is really good.
I haven't had that one yet.
We saw one the other day that would probably go really great.
Yeah.
It was goat cheese and apple.
Oh.
So I might get one of those and bring them over for
Yeah.
trivia and
Yeah,
taste that
that'd
one.
be nice.
Because that would be great with.
Yeah.
I mean, because you got the apple already going there.
Yeah.
Well, what I like is that since my ciders are not that sweet, and the king cake is so sweet, so you definitely don't want something super sweet with super sweet, I find. So
Right,
it was kind of a good
balance.
yes.
That's great.
What did you get some sense of what cake and cider pairing your customers were loving, or?
A lot of people like the cranberry, which we had as an experimental batch, but we don't have that now. Now we have the blood orange. So they were liking the cranberry and Kalutas.
Yeah. The blood orange I actually had the last time I was here, which was really good. It was a little tart, but still a little sweet. Like, it was good. It kind of reminded me of, I'm I can't. We were talking about, my friends and I were talking about the other day, trying to figure out what it reminded of. Something like childhood, like flavors. It was
That's
It was
good.
good.
The experimental ones do, we're experimenting with some of the brewers' flavorings. So those do have a little bit of sugar put in them, but I'm not going in and adding a bunch of sugar. So those are the only ones that have anything different.
Well, and I sort of lean towards the Perry's, so, and I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, I mean, I found it so underrepresented in the market. Like you really don't see. I had never had one until I went to that class, and I'm like, why are we not drinking more of these? Why is a pear cider not more prevalent than apple? Because I personally like them better.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were in Virginia and went to a huge cider place, and they had a lot of different Perry's. So yeah, I think that's the first time. I think that was the first time I tried a Perry.
Yeah.
But in fact, I was like, what is that? So it's cider made with pears instead of apples.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I like the Perry, but every once in a while I switch it up.
Yeah. You gotta switch it up. So are there any? We like to ask this question. Sometimes people can't tell us. Is there any new flavors or any new things that you're coming up with in the next little bit?
Yes, very much so. One, I will hold off on saying exactly what it is.
Okay.
But it is not a cider.
Oh.
But it falls under the wine category.
Interesting.
So it will easily make it without a problem. In fact, if you stick around, might hear a little bit. But so we're going to start that today.
Wow. Cool.
Other than that, I'm trying to come up with the recipe as everything is named after somebody in the Long family or related into that mix. Huey Long's wife was named Rose, and their daughter was named Rose. And rosé ciders are like a really big deal. So I'm trying to come up with my rosé. I'm going to call it the Two Roses.
Oh, cool.
So now, how does a rosé cider differ from a regular cider? Is it a different apple, or is it?
No, well, it just depends on how they make it. I mean, I had one, Awesome East Ciders makes a rosé that is extremely floral and actually tastes like roses.
Oh, wow.
It just depends on what you use to make it. I've had different ones that taste a little bit more like a rosé wine. So I'm.
So you add something to the cider.
Yes, I'm going more for like probably a cranberry, again, but maybe not as tart, a little bit more sweet. Because the cranberry ran a bit tart. You need a little sugar to balance it out. So that one will have a little sugar added to it. And people have been wanting a slightly more, a sweeter version. So really all it is for me, I will just stop the fermentation sooner and leave that residual sugar from the fruit,
So it'd be like you would with wine then?
What's that?
It would be like you would with wine, where you leave some of the residual sugar.
Exactly.
Cool. That's awesome. Well, we're definitely looking forward to that.
I'm sorry I missed the cranberry. Where was I? Did I have it?
I think you had. I think you had a sip of mine. I liked it, but I like things a little bit more on the tart side anyways. But I know I had a friend get one of the cocktails that was made.
Oh, yes, that was very popular.
Oh, and talk about that. Because when you come here, you don't just have to have straight up cider. You all make cocktails with the ciders.
Yes, I also find cider more versatile than beer or wine in the sense that you can really mix it up with cocktails. It makes a great addition. You make cider mules. You use it. We've come up with just all sorts of things, just playing around with them. And it's just the one that you're talking about, the winter solstice, David came up with, and that was cranberry, and I don't really remember what else was in there. It was short-lived because it was just experimental batch. Yeah. But it had some just Sprite in it and something. It was just kind of like a cranberry spritzer almost. It was really good.
It was good, and I think I had one. They came up with like a king cake cocktail.
Oh, yes,
that was really interesting. I think it was with like the blueberry.
Yes, we still have that one going through Mardi Gras. Oh, the winter solstice also had the hibiscus, because we had hibiscus in the cranberry cider, so we added a little bit more hibiscus syrup and that hibiscus rum. Yeah.
Well, and they made, and I hadn't ever thought about this, we make a hot apple cider, which we add a lot of alcohol to. We call it happy juice at our house, and y'all have the recipe. But it never occurred to me to make it with
an already.
alcoholic cider,
Uh-huh.
you know, and add the rest to it. And on cold days here, you'll have that, and it's delicious.
It's so good. It's so good.
But yeah, so as I was sitting here one day, I thought, we should maybe try it with
Yeah.
alcoholic cider as opposed to what we do
a
from
little
just
more alcohol.
regular, regular cider. So maybe a little less strong. No?
Yeah. Maybe.
We had
use a lot of
rum and
bourbon.
brandy and
We use about a half a bottle of bourbon in the batches.
Oh,
so
nice.
yeah,
Yeah.
got a good bit of bourbon in it.
yeah,
We'll
it's a good-
definitely
it's a
keep you
good
warm.
drink. So you're always experimenting, always trying new things. Now I know in the summertime I've been here and you have
Yes.
frozen drinks. So
Yes, the frozen drinks, and then also we do the pop tails, which are the popsicles inside a glass of cider.
Oh.
So, and that kind of came to me too because of the during Voodoo Fest one year, one of the wine vendors, I think it might have been, I just can't remember the name of the wine, but they were doing this in conjunction with a popsicle place out of Atlanta where you would go get the wine and then they would put a popsicle in it. Now, I like the idea. It didn't really go really well with the red wine with the popsicle. It's kind of a little strange, but I was like, this is a good idea. Maybe just not with wine.
Yeah.
It'd be great with
Yeah.
cider.
So yes, it is, and it kind of changes the flavor. You know, it takes on a whole new flavor.
Yeah.
So it's fun, especially I love the Earl with the lemon rosemary mint popsicle. We get them from Firefly Pops, and so she makes them all, you know, handmade, homemade, and they're just really fresh and good.
That sounds really good. So yeah, you'll have to come check it out in the summertime if y'all here in New Orleans. Come check out Kingfish. That sounds so good with the
Thank you.
popsicles.
And we love your decor. It's all from an older time. There's some,
Yes.
we can't see them on the camera, but there's pinball machines.
You can
and-
play cornhole and like it's a really, really fun vibe in here.
Well, thank you. I was trying to capture also the kind of the long era that when they were all very active. There were a lot of politicians in that family, but they did a whole lot. But from the 30s to the 70s was kind of their reigning period, because you also had Russell Long, Huey's son, who was a very long-term United States senator, and he was on the finance committee. He had all sorts of accolades because he had been there so long and done so much. So he will have a cider named after him as well.
cool.
So
Right.
yes.
Definitely look forward to that.
All right. Well, thank you so much
Well,
for
thank
taking
you.
time to talk to us.
Sure.
We're here every Friday night because we're playing trivia. But yeah, it's so good to talk to you and know a little bit
thank
more
you.
about your ciders. And
Sure.
Definitely. And if you guys want to come check them out, definitely hit up socials. It's Kingfish Cider, right?
Yes.
Okay.
On everything.
On all socials, and we